thank you guys for being here. And since there's just such a few of us, I think I'm going to run this like more of a discussion than an actual teaching and learning. But we'll go through the slides because I think the slides will give us some direction as to what to do. So thank you for coming in today. We are just going to spend some time sharing and discussing on self-directed supports in family care and in partnership. My name is Dee Herr. I am in family care. I do use self-directed supports. I live in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin, which is in Dane County, and it is right outside of the city of Madison. And you know what? Since it's just a few of us, can we just go around and share your name, where you are from, and yeah, maybe what you would like to learn. Okay. Actually, what I'm going to have first is I'm going to have Mary Claire here introduce herself because she's a very important team member. She's one of my colleagues, and we work together. So I'm going to have Mary Claire introduce herself before we go around.
It's so funny that I'm having to hold a microphone. I just have to share this. I don't know that anyone would ever have come across. He's now passed away, but there's a very famous national advocate who himself had a disability. His name was Dave Hinsberger. Did a lot of incredible work. One of the things that Dave would teach me when I was learning things from Dave is he would say, your job is to hold the microphone and to talk. So this is a rare occasion. I'm only going to bounce in a couple of times. This is Dee's show, but we worked on it together. And so it's a pleasure. I work at My Choice. I work with engaging members and getting them involved. And we're even doing more stuff next year because our services have also expanded. So our company will also be serving people with SSI and Badger Care. And so all kinds of fun things like that. So, and I used to be, for other trivia for you, I was part of the team that helped found People First. And I was the director there for the first 13 years. And I got to work very fortunately with Cindy Bentley side by side. So that's my claim to fame. I worked with Cindy. So, all right, go this way.
Oh, yeah. Good, yeah. Well, we could pass the mic.
Hi, my name is Erin Miller. I live in St. Francis, near Milwaukee.
Good morning. I'm Spencer Lemecca. I live in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I work with My Choice Wisconsin. I lead organizational efforts surrounding our community connections pay for performance, as well as our competitive integrated employment pay for performance. And I guess what I'm looking to get out of this is just how important maybe self-advocacy and self-determination is in self-directed supports.
Can you tell us your name?
Kolbakowski,
Where are you from, Cole?
Wisconsin Dells,
You're in Wisconsin Dells, right? But where do you live? Where's your apartment?
in Eau Claire.
That's right, in Eau Claire.
And I'm Maria Betkowski. I'm Cole's mom, legal guardian, and I live in Menominee, Wisconsin. About 30 minutes or so from where Cole lives.
Gotcha.
Uh-oh.
Bombs there.
Oh, yes. And
Okay, my name is Kang Jing. I'm Dee's mom.
yes. And we live together. So my parents and I share a home together. We got one person in the back there. Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Ann from Milwaukee County. Not sure what we're going to end up with yet, so I'm visiting here.
Wonderful. Anne, would you like to move up and sit closer? We realized that there's just a small group of us, so I think today it'd just work out a lot better to just do it as a discussion.
Hi, my name is Diana Becerra. I'm from Milwaukee, and I am the program director at ALAS on the south side of Milwaukee.
Yes.
So I'm here just to learn more. I feel pretty versed on IRIS, so now I'm learning a little bit more on everything else.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you guys so much for, oh, yes, one more. But that's okay, you're just as
You're
important.
famous yourself, so go ahead.
I'm Sydney. I'm not with Family Care, but I'm just the room monitor for today.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. I really do appreciate you guys actually coming in. And I know this gives me time to share with you on the topic of self-directed supports in family care. And it gives me time to just actually learn and get feedback from all of you guys as well. Some of you guys who work for the organization and others who are members themselves. So I think it's important for us to understand why self-directed supports is important for self-determination. So, yes, yes, there we go. So I know some of you guys, like Spencer shared, what is something you would like to learn today about self-directed supports? What is something you guys would like to learn? Erin?
I suppose I don't really know a whole lot about
Yeah,
self-directed supports. I want to get the lay of the land.
absolutely, absolutely. Anybody else that would like to, or any questions that you guys might have, or what you guys would like to learn and find out today?
I think it'd just be beneficial to know what's possible.
Absolutely.
And also to maybe
Absolutely.
see like what some of the benefits that you might see.
Absolutely.
You do self-direct some of your supports.
Right. And, when we talk about self-determination, right, what are we talking about? We are talking about people who, even if you have disabilities, you have value, right? You have rights, right? And those things are important. And what self-directed supports do is it allows people who have disabilities to be able to have self-worth. It furthers the goal of what self-determination is, okay? According to the Wisconsin Department of Health Services member handbook, they give us a very clear and distinct definition of what self-directed supports are. Self-directed supports are a way for you to arrange, purchase, and direct some of your long-term care services. I think the most important thing to remember in self-directed supports is that the first thing you should do is talk to your care team, okay? Now, the care team is made up of 3 people that are very important. The first being is you. It is your care. It is what your desires are. It is important that you know what you want for yourself, okay? The second person on your care team is your care manager. Now, this is kind of the person that you will speak to consistently. Maybe if you have any concerns, this is the person that you would go to. The third person on your care team is your nurse. So you, your care manager, and your nurse make up your care team. And the first thing that you want to do when you want to learn about what self-directed supports are is to go to your care team. They're the ones that can give you the information you need. If you've got any questions about it, they're the ones that can help you. So you'll find that throughout this whole process, they are very crucial into understanding and how to use self-directed supports.
Can I just give
Absolutely.
So just one thing that I wanted to share, because the tough thing about talking about self-directed supports in family care is that, one, each MCO, whether you're talking Inclusa or Lakeland or Community Care or My Choice Wisconsin, they all do some things slightly differently. They all have to do it within the contract of what DHS has. But so that's why it's important to just, also to take the information you learned today, and if you want to learn more, say, all right, I want to know how it works at My Choice. I want to know that. And the second part is just that great reminder, because I always tease that I was going to say this like 50 times today. I was just going to hold up a sign. It's not a bad thing to say, talk to your care team. And I think sometimes people think like, well, yeah, but I want to self-direct. It's that, but really, it's just the way long-term care is set up. The care team is where decisions are made and what can be done. And so that's why it's really important to have a good relationship with your care team. And this is true of everyone, but I'll make this as another sense. In family care, if you're having trouble with wherever you are, if you're in Inclusa or you're in Lakeland or My Choice, you can request a care manager change. You can request a nurse to find someone that you bond with better, because it really needs to be a partnership
Come on up.
in all of that. So that was just my little 2 cents.
No. Thank you for that. I appreciate it, Mary. But self-directed supports, what does this mean? Self-directed supports lets you direct some of your care. Self-directed support allows you to make plans for some of your long-term care. And I think it's important to realize in that self-directed supports allows you as the member to just have a choice, have a little bit of a say as to how your long-term care is expressed and how it's being taken care of, right? Now, this means that with some of the self-directed supports, you can choose how many services that you are in charge of, okay?
Does that mean you don't have to self-direct all of them?
Exactly, Mary Claire. That means that you can self-direct based on the decision that you and your care team make, what services you would like to direct, okay? So that means also, as Mary Claire just said, that means you don't have to direct all of them. That means that what you are comfortable with and what your care team is comfortable with is what you can direct for yourself, okay? This means that you can also choose your providers. So you can choose a provider that you're comfortable with based on what you and your care team decide for you. This also means that you are given the option to choose where to get your help. And I think that's very important to consider, because this way you don't necessarily have to go through an agency to be able to find the help that you need. This means that maybe there is somebody from a church group that you're with, or a faith-based group, or maybe it's a previous caregiver. The choice is up to you and your care team to make that decision. Oh, yeah. Sure. Absolutely. Let me just share by giving a personal example. So I live with a lot of family. So like I said before, I've got my mother, who is one of my caretakers. I've got my father, and then I've got my brother and his wife, and they have 3 children. So all of us, we're in one household, one family. So for myself, because the amount of care that I need is a little higher than other people's, I know that I can trust my sister-in-law and I can trust my mother to help me with the things that I need. So things like bathing, or just maybe even doing my laundry, or cooking or preparing a meal for me. I can trust that my mother will help and do the right thing. My sister-in-law will do the right thing. Because we live together in the same home, they know me very intimately, and I can trust that they are able to make the right decisions for me, with me, when it comes to my care. So for myself, I am most comfortable when it is either my mother or my sister-in-law being the ones to help me. So for myself, when I made the decision to go into self-directed supports, I chose to pick people within my own family. We got
Share that what My Choice helps, like the traditional stuff, so like you have both, like transportation.
absolutely.
That is what I
Yes.
think the biggest problem with
Yeah.
is understanding, you know, what part of it are you working with a provider agency?
Yes.
What part of it are you setting off and making your own
Absolutely.
decisions?
Absolutely. So when I made the choice to go into self-directed supports, I purposely chose to do just personal care as something I would direct. But in terms of, for example, transportation, that is something that my care team still takes care for me. So when we made that choice together, I said, look, I'm comfortable with choosing my family to help with my personal care needs. But when it comes to transportation, it's not a guaranteed thing that I can personally, or my family can personally take care of that. So for myself and in my situation, my care team says, okay, that's fine. We'll take care of that for you. Or even things like, for example, trying to find providers for services like mental health and such like that. My care team takes care of that for me. They make the appointments. I just make sure that I let them know that's what is needed, and they take care of that. But when it comes to the personal care for myself, I do that on my own. So I plan those hours that they help me. I plan the items that they're going to do for me. And even so far as to go, when we just started to discuss how and payment and such like that, I take care of that with my with the person who works for me. Does that make sense? But in terms of, for example, them getting paid and them doing a timesheet, they do that through the organization. But I'm the one that chooses them to do it. I am the one that tells them, shows them what needs to be done. Yeah.
So are they employees of My Choice then?
I want, you might be able to answer that clearer, Mary Claire, than I can.
We're going to have some slides a little bit later.
That will kind of explain
There's
that a little more,
kind of,
yeah.
really quickly, but there's kind of two different approaches. One is that it is a relationship. I mean, ultimately, the MCO is covering it. But what you'll have, for those of you who are familiar with IRIS, My Choice will hook you up with a fiscal agent. And so they're going to handle the payments and of that nature. So, but there is another choice when you can self-direct, but you self-direct by choosing a very specific organization and they send you people. But there's more direction than like fitting into a program, if you will. But it is, and I'd be curious just a little bit, Dee, just because, I mean, you can already tell she's pretty amazing being able to talk and spell. But I think a lot of people at the conference would say, well, why aren't you in IRIS then?
Right.
What was it that made you say, this is the best thing for me?
So I chose to go with family care over IRIS because, I've been dealing with a lot of things for a very long time. I've been sick for a large amount of time. I got diagnosed with a kidney disease when I was 19. I am now 43. And I had to kind of take care and learn how to do everything on my own. And so by the time that it came to making the decision to whether go into IRIS and continue taking everything on my own, or go into family care where I have a team that can help me, I was ready to just hand off some of that work. Because the reality is, with IRIS, self-directing everything is exhausting when I already have to take care of my own health. And it's a burden that I feel is very tiring. And if I had to consistently not just deal with the burden of that healthcare, but to have to worry about doing everything else, it was just too much for me to mentally do. But when I joined family care, one of the things I really made known was that there are some things that I'm still capable of managing. And that's what self-directed supports allowed me to do. It allowed me to kind of have the choice as to what I was capable and able to do, but that everything else that I needed help with, I got the help that I needed. And that was why I chose to go with family care instead of Iris, where I would kind of have to be dependent on being the one to do everything. It was just too much, especially when there was already so much on my plate. And that was the reason why I purposely went with family care over Iris. So now I can self-direct what I can, but at the same time, where I need help, I've got that wonderful care team to really help support me so that I can self-direct myself, if that makes sense when I say that.
It seems like you're kind of threading the needle. I mean, with Iris, yes, for some people, there are definitely, some families, there are definitely advantages to
Absolutely.
Iris.
Yes, versus yes.
But this allows you to have the support of a team while still kind of customizing it to
Correct.
what works best.
Correct.
You would like to most manage yourself.
Right, and it still gives you the choice. You know what I'm saying? It still allows you to be able to effectively make the right choice for yourself, but that get the help that you need in order to sustain making that choice,
Okay.
right? And
Yep.
that helps out in the overall balance of your healthcare and your long-term care. I'm going to move on here, and
I have
yes,
a question relating to what you were just discussing.
Yes.
Because it sounds like you were in a position where you were able to make that decision whether you wanted to go family care Iris route.
Correct.
But I've been to other seminars where they made it sound like you don't get a choice in some situations. Is that correct or not? Or
Can I answer this?
Yes, I was gonna
And then Spencer, you can jump in. So the long-term care process actually doesn't start out with family care and Iris. It starts out with your
ADRC.
ADRC, which is the Aging and Disability Resource Center. Then, when they give you that information, you or whoever the family member is, you make the choice. First choice is, do I want to do family care? Do I want to do Iris? And then after that, then you choose what group you want to have support you in family care, or what group you want me to support in Iris. So it is a choice, and you do get to make it. Now, what you may have come into, and again, these are those slight things with, DHS and all that kind of stuff, Department of Health Services. There are certain things that Iris has trouble paying for. Some of the more like a more nursing kind of home, kind of support type facility or whatever. And then there's some things that Iris can do that a managed care organization can't. So a managed care organization, even if you're self-directing, it needs to fit into Medicaid's
Rules and lists.
the rules. Whereas in Iris, if you have a budget, you can pretty much do almost whatever you want with the budget. So if you have a budget and you want to spend money to go to an art class, you can go to an art class,
And it get paid for.
but you're limited to that pool of money. And so you have a lot more freedom there, and that works really well for a lot of people and a lot of families. But for a lot of people, as Dee so wonderfully said, it didn't work as well. Or there was a better way, but she kind of, you used the term threading the needle, but it was being able to say, I don't want to give it all up, but I do.
That's exactly it,
I
yes.
want part of it. And so an example the other way, the other example would be the fact that on family care, the functional screen gets you to a budget, but family care doesn't work on a budget. So if today something terrible happens and suddenly Dee needs more services, her care team can authorize them, and she'll have that within 24 hours. But when you have IRIS, you then have to submit to get an IRIS budget, a new one approved. So then so again, it just works differently for different people for what they need. And that's a really good thing, but it also can be very confusing.
The follow-up to that question is, if you've got a person that you're supporting who, like in your situation, you are so lucky to have family
Yes.
who can be part of that team for you. But what if you have somebody who isn't, if they had family supporting, they could manage maybe in IRIS. But if family isn't able to be there anymore, they're on their own and they're not going to be able to manage the level, like, for example, of what
Of
you're
care, right,
talking about.
yes.
So can somebody switch at that point if something happens?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
families and individuals themselves do not realize that you can switch between MCOs. You can switch from family care to IRIS or IRIS to
Back
family care. Usually it's a 30-day thing. That goes back. The ADRC, the Aging and Disability Resource Center, that's the one who's like, think of them as like the gatekeeper. You have to go there to get anything in there. They do the initial functional screen, make sure you're financial. Then once you make choices, am I going to go family care? Am I going to go IRIS? Am I going to go with Inclusa? Or am I going to go with My Choice Wisconsin? You make that. But you get into it in about 30 days, like let's say you were doing IRIS and going, whoa, this is more than I thought it was. You can switch to family care. And I don't think enough people know and take advantage of that, because it really does give people a lot more power than they think. So it's not like, if you're familiar with the Medicare Advantage programs, they only have a window of time.
Correct.
You can make a change between November 1st and December 31st. Not true in long-term care. But it's back to the ADRC, so.
Right. No. So I just want to bring up our next slide. It's a self-directed supports allows you to be in charge of the budget and the providers of your services. And remember, like I said in the beginning, a lot of this goes back to what you and your care team decide. So self-directed supports allows, some of the self-directed supports allows you to be in charge of that, be in charge of the budget, the decision-making of the providers, and of your services.
Can I interrupt?
Yes, absolutely.
So which comes first? Is it a decision that is made with the team as to what the needs
Correct. So it's between the member and the care team. And
then a budget amount is talked about at that time, or?
For the services that you're self-directing, yes.
correct, for what you're self-directing.
But
So-
if you're doing it traditional, no.
No, right. So what it means is that it allows the member to hire, to train, to supervise, and at the same time, it gives them the right to fire as they see fit, based on the decision that was made between the member and the care team. So, I'm going to take this back to my personal experience on this, in that when we discussed it, I chose to make the decision to take care of my own personal care. So I have hired my mother and my sister-in-law as my personal care workers in the home. So I was the one that showed them what I needed done. I went even so far as to, because in my care, my mother and my sister-in-law are put in our relationship is very intimate. And some of the things I need help with are very private. And so I needed to even show them, how do you help lift me out of a chair if I struggle with it? So I had to even train them on that. And then consistently every day, they are the ones that have to make sure that my meals are ready. So we had to discuss about what foods I can eat, what is allowed in my diet. So I supervise them on that, but they are the ones that every single day will be taking care of that for me. And likewise, if at any point I feel that the connection or that line drawn between being a sister-in-law or mother has been crossed, it will be up to me at that time to be the one to release them from the job that they will be doing for me as my personal care workers. Does that make sense? Are there any questions there that I can answer? Okay, so moving on. So that is one of the ways that, you know, a person can use as self-directed supports. Yeah, yes, absolutely.
So you and your care team have made the decision that you do need a level of support in your dwelling.
Correct.
So it could come from My Choice employees or under the self-directed supports, you're splitting it off, and that same budget amount that would be going to My
Choice then is used to cover for myself, for the personal care worker that would be coming in to help me. It's just that in my decision-making, that turned out to be my mother and my sister-in-law, whereas for somebody else, it might be a family friend, or it might be somebody from a church group that they have a close connection with that they're willing to, you know, hire in as that personal care. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask this, because I'm not
Absolutely.
sure I know the answer to this?
Yeah.
When it come to decide what their salary, what they were being
yes.
paid,
Yes,
how
yes,
did
yes.
that happen? How did you do that with your care team?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did was the care team and I discussed, when it comes to doing that type of work, what do they deserve to get paid? And what is it how other people at this point get paid for that job? And so what we ended up doing was we just went with an average of what the market rate is for that job and for what I felt they deserved. Because for my needs, my level of need, there is a lot involved. I mean, there are times they help dress me, bathe, feed. Sometimes they even have to help with toileting and moving me. And so I feel that the rate that they should be paid is going to be more because they have to help with so much more. The amount of work that they have to do is so much more. So my team and I personally chose to do an average. What I've also just very recently, the beginning of October, discussed is that the reality is the cost of living has gone up. And right now, I feel is the time that my personal care worker deserves a raise, just simply because they have been doing this for 8 years now. We have not had a raise at any time. And now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it, especially when it comes down to it. We had just gotten word, I had just gotten word that SSDI was going to be increasing by a good 2% this year. So my team and I made the decision in October to increase it. And so we went in discussing with my care team said that the average amount that a lot of the personal care workers were increasing to was $16. So I said, you know what? If we can, I would like, and there's room in the budget, I'd like to increase their rate to $16. So October 16th was the first paycheck that they would be receiving $16 an hour per hour. But that was a discussion that myself and the care team had to have, just to make sure that it would fit within my budget. Yeah. So in other types of self-directed supports, you can still choose your provider. However, it is an agency that takes care of the actual hiring, the training, and the supervision of the staff. And that goes back to making that choice with your care team. Sometimes it's hard to do all of that, the hiring, the training, the supervision. And so if you want to be able to choose your provider, but you don't want to have to take care of all the what I would consider the business side of it, you don't have to. That they can go ahead and take care of that, but you can still find your provider.
So
Yeah.
let me
Oh.
just sort of illustrate that
Yes.
a little bit. So what that would be is if you really want someone, and you want to self-direct to be coming in your home to help you with cooking, and that fits in with your functional screen and such of that nature. But you're not sure who you'd hire yourself. And you don't want to advertise. Now, I have another member of our committee, he does that. He has a brother who does his care, but then he advertises at the university, and it switches out every now and then, his secondary. But for other people, what they do is they go to a agency. There are agencies around there that's what they do. They provide workers, and then you can like help select from their workers that who you would want. Sometimes family members will decide to go into the agency, even though they're family care, maybe because it benefits them. They don't have to worry about taking out their own taxes or, things like that. So there's different reasons. So it can either go straight, and I don't know which way you guys do it.
No, we personally chose to do it straight rather than through an agency.
So the straight
Yeah.
would be, and again, it's redirecting,
Yeah.
but it's not money in her account that's
Right.
going to screw up SSI or that. You have
Right.
a fiscal agent.
Right.
But the check will go directly to her mother,
Right.
directly to the sister, okay?
Right.
The other one is sometimes even with family, they'll say, I'd rather run it through an agency, because then they're gonna take care of all my tax stuff with it. And for some people, that's a preference, and sometimes it's a preference because they can help you find someone.
Workers, yeah. Go ahead.
Can we talk about liability as it relates to having someone, like in your situation, if they would be if your family member who's caring for you would be injured while caring for you as a direct result of
Yes.
caring for you?
Yes.
How is that handled?
That's a good question, Mary Claire. Would you be able to answer that? That's a very good question. I'm not.
I
so
don't
sure.
have a direct,
Yeah.
so in here does.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
You didn't get to introduce yourself before, so maybe you can.
Sorry.
And then they'll know that I can see where you.
So I am Dana. I work for Lakeland Care. It's a different managed care organization within Wisconsin. And so I'm one of the self-directed support specialists. So I work a lot of hand in hand with the fiscal agencies. So there's a lot of them around, even here today. And so with self-directing your services and supports, you have a financial management provider, and they hold the unemployment, insurance liability, and then workman's comp and things like that. So if, your mom or sister-in-law were to get injured, it wouldn't be on D. It would be on the fiscal management provider to help with working with that addition.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Answer a question for me. So self-directed supports can be used in many different ways. It can be used for in-home care. So that's like for myself, hiring my own family members to do personal care work in your home. Self-directed supports can also be used for things like transportation. Going to doctor's appointments, or maybe going and doing things within the community, like going to a faith-based activity or group activity, other activities, like maybe going to, if you want to play a sport or something like that. It can be used for being able to provide for the transportation for somebody within that to, do the driving to get you there. It can also be used for personal care at work. That is, some of our members have jobs, and sometimes those jobs require a person to go with them and to be with them to be able to support them at their work. Self-directed supports can also be used for that.
And I just want to jump in at this point. We tried to be very careful with using DHS language. You'll appreciate that. It says can be used.
Can be
okay?
used, yes.
It's why it's so critical that you work with your care team. And I'll just give you an example of one of our other members on our member advisory committee. He lives in a home in Milwaukee that provides what's called bundled services, meaning the contract for them is to do residential and transportation, and they get a higher rate for saying that they'll do all that. Well, if that's the contract, they can't split it to where, oh, he can't self-direct his own transportation. So that's why we use that word. So can mean it's not guaranteed. Again, that's why your care team and having that great relationship is so important. And the thing is, I would also encourage people, there might be things that aren't on this list. Ask the care team.
Right.
I was thinking that maybe. One of our other members who's here today, Vice Chair, he lives in a community where there's, well, it's not so much his community, but he actually has a job in the neighboring community. And the typical van services, they won't cross county lines. And he goes to work 4 days a week. So what they worked out was, and again, I'm not even going to claim that I know, but this was okay with my choice. Might not be okay with Lakeland. But what they worked on was, he works with Uber. And Uber provides the transportation. He and his family then pay for it, and then they get reimbursed. Okay? But he's the one that's setting it up. And that's worked really well for him because he feels very much in control. He's not waiting for a van that might have gotten delayed. And Uber drivers have gotten to know him because it's a very consistent thing. So just using your expertise here, do you want to, do you have any other little, like, different way that somebody might have used
SDS, yeah.
SDS?
Self-directed supports.
Okay, just so people have an idea.
Yeah, so a lot of times we see it being used for the in-home support. So that's the personal care, the routine home care, so cleaning, laundry, things like that. And transportation tends to be a big one. But sometimes I know we have a member that needs catheter care, and they have a nurse that comes in and they self-direct that person to come in and do their catheter care. I know we have other members that we're not contracted with them. And so there's a way to use non-contracted providers through a way of self-directing. And so if they don't want to contract with an MCO for whatever reason that is, there may be a different option to use that same provider, so that you still have the choice. And it's not necessarily that you're hiring then that person, it's that you're using your chosen provider. So there's a lot of different ways.
And I think you would probably agree that relationship with care team, absolutely where everything starts. And then proof evidence, every MCO, when we said Inclusa or Lakeland or Community Care, my choice, they have a specialist like this that'll work right with you and the care team. So don't be afraid to ask. It might be something that's a little bit off here, and it might be something, as we said, that's in there that your particular provider that you're using can't. But usually, my experience, in whether it's Lakeland or Inclusa or My Choice or Community Care, is that the teams are really good at sort of helping people figure out maybe a way. So don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah, we always like to brainstorm.
Yeah.
Everyone's unique.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I think self-directed supports works, is because everybody is different. our needs are going to be different, your challenges are going to be different. But that also means allowing your team to help you think outside of the box so that whatever concerns or needs you have can be met where you are, so that you don't have to worry about how to not just find that care, but that your needs can be met. And that way you can kind of like draw your own boundary lines to your box rather than having to stay into what they, or what, you know, what everybody else says you should stay within. Yeah, go ahead. He had a question.
Can I give you an example?
Sure.
A situation that's going on with our family right now. Thank you. That I wonder whether the self-directed supports could really be a help. Absolutely. Our son, as far as guardianship and the legal guardianship, not Lutheran Social Services, excuse me, the Ark of Eau Claire has been named as the legal guardian at the passing of my husband and myself.
Okay.
So, or even before, if we would choose to step away from the legal guardianship role.
So just make clear, they're not the guardian now.
They are the standby guardian. They are
okay.
the standby guardian. And so both my husband and I have had health issues, and trying to look forward to the future of the near future, the far future. What is going to, you know, how can we best create a situation that supports Cole? And I have always I've been his rep payee.
Yes.
However, my husband, around a medical condition, is going to start to need a tremendous amount more care. And so it's like, I can't really do both. And so I wanted to find a rep payee service. And I did speak with our MCO, and they were very supportive of that. However, any of the option, what I had suggested, what I felt the best scenario is to have the Ark of Eau Claire be the rep payee, because they will eventually be taking over Cole's care. But that was not, they didn't have a contract, I guess, with them, because the Ark of Eau Claire actually doesn't do that. They do a lot of it for the people that they have a very large guardianship service.
Yes.
But they are actually helping us for free by doing the rep payee service.
Gotcha.
They don't want to be paid. However, I'm not really comfortable with that. I feel they're doing a lot of work for us.
Right.
And so is that a possible scenario where, I mean, it seems like the MCO understands the need for us to look at who else might be able to take this over.
Yes.
But it's just more a matter of they just don't have a contract.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead.
I'll do this. No, okay, you were in residential before, I just want to ask. I think there's, first of all, that we talked about getting you connected up with somebody at Eclusa who actually specializes in this. That would be crucial. You never, care teams can be younger, maybe they don't always see. I worked with a situation a few years ago where someone was a member or became a member, but they had already had a relationship with a job coach, and it worked really well, but it wasn't in our network. And initially, the care manager was like, got to pick somebody else, but we've got some other great ones. And it was till it got raised, and it kind of ended up coming my way, different price, where we were like, no.
Right.
And so there's two different ways. You can either do it, if the organization is willing, they do call it an out-of-network contract. But then there's also the ability, you guys call it a conduit, but But what it is it just allows you to go through somebody that is not one of their fiscal. And that might be complicated enough that a care manager might not know that. So that's why talking to them, but also making sure you bring in that specialist.
Within the organization, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can really see the benefit of talking with someone within our MCO. There is, you said there were 2 individuals within.
Yeah, I was talking that I know personally the people at her MCO who do this. I just don't know, does Jill do this and Tricia do this? But it was just to give you a face maybe to meet here. But your care team would be able to do that. There's usually, they have a process by which they ask for consultation and come meet with us and the family, so.
I think it's consistently important to also just remember that if you don't want to direct all of your self-care services, that's okay. You and your care team will work together to decide what you as the member would like to do and what the care team can help you do in supporting. It's okay if you don't want to do it all. Completely okay. Talk with your care team about which self-directed supports you want to do and which ones you want help doing. So now we know that self-directed supports is something you can do for yourself. But, the other thing that your care team will talk about is the budget on it. So at the end of the day, who really pays for your self-directed supports? If you choose to go with self-directed supports, the managed care organization that you are with uses an agency to fund all of the items within your budget. So I will go back to what we do for myself and my family. So we've got my mother, we've got my sister-in-law who do the work, but that paycheck does not come from me. That paycheck comes from a fiscal agent who is in charge of, whenever they send the timesheet in, their job is to go ahead and calculate how much is paid, how much is due, what day the paycheck needs to come out, whatever taxes, the fiscal agent takes care of that. However, the work that is done will be done directly for me under my care, under my supervision. Does that make sense to everybody? Perfect. And ultimately, at the very end, go back to your managed care organization and your care team. That group of 3 people, you, your nurse, and your care manager, that is going to be the foundation. That is going to be the key to making the decisions with your self-directed supports. There we go. Like, I was kind of laughing about it. I looked through and like this whole presentation, I swear half of them just says, go back to your care team, go back to your care team. And I was talking with Mary Claire about this going, we should just make a hot pink sign and just says, go back to your care team, because they are truly the foundation of you together making the decision as to what you can do and what they can do to help support you in all of this. I just want to go through real quickly some of the benefits of being in with self-directed supports. I enjoyed being given this choice because it allowed me to choose. I'm almost done, Cole, I promise. I'm almost done. One of the benefits on this is that I was able to choose my own family to do this, and that made a difference for me. So for you, choosing somebody that you're comfortable with, because like I said for myself, these people are seeing me in very, very intimate situations where I know and I will trust that they are not going to do anything to offend the way I think, offend the way I am, and they're not going to look down on me because they see me in this situation. I also like that self-directed supports gives me a choice to be able to make this decision for myself. That I didn't go with an agency, but the fact that I can say I am most comfortable with my mother, most comfortable with my sister-in-law, that made a difference and that made an impact at the end of the day. It also gave me an option to find people who didn't mind my preferences. I personally feel more comfortable with a woman doing all of this work. As a woman myself, I would just not feel comfortable if this was a man in this situation. So to have somebody who was respectful of my preferences, that made an impact. So yeah, so those are the benefits. I know we did face some hardships early on in the beginning, and I think one of the biggest ones is that because it was my family and they come from the viewpoint of a mother or a sister, that line becomes very gray. There's no longer a white or black line as to say, this is the role of a mother, this is the role of a sister. That as my caretaker, that line became a little gray. So that, I know that was one of the hardships, but I feel like I am more comfortable having them as my caretakers than if I had anybody else in the public. Yeah.
I really relate to that because I heard a statistic somewhere that says about 80% of caregivers are women, and so we still have, in my own life, I still have that kind of relationship. It's something, yeah.
Absolutely, that you're just more you are just more comfortable with the fact that it's a woman who is seeing you and,
Well, yeah, and
you know.
and the lines are really blurred with, and because most of us are women, it's just how
That's just the
we put
reality.
together.
That's just the reality of it, absolutely.
But now,
Yeah.
you've done this now for years.
It's
So
8 years now.
How has that changed? I mean, has the separation between caregiver and mother become clearer cut or more comfortable for both sides?
I think it's, you know what it is? It was learning to be comfortable with that line being gray.
Yeah.
So, for example, for my mother and I, we, that line of what a mother does and what a daughter responds to is now very gray. But now it's also built, I feel like it's not only opened up the door to our relationship because we now see each other in a different light and a new appreciation for each other. But I think now those lines that we didn't have before are now drawn a little bit more, if that makes any sense. That I am now comfortable with, for example, going 3 days like this at this conference. I'm now comfortable allowing my mother to be the one to do it because I know that what I can't do in these 3 days, she was able to do. You know, that she was capable of doing and able to do because she's been my caregiver for so long, which if I just had somebody else as a stranger coming in would have struggled to know how to push my wheelchair or know what I can eat and not eat on my plate, you know. But because we've had that relationship of her being not just my mother, but my caretaker, I'm comfortable with her coming in to help me through a conference like this. Yes?
Okay, yeah, I take care of
Yes.
my mom. And it's so hard because of like, it's like, you know, I work under a company, but she be wanting me to do extra. And I'm like, I can't do the extra while I'm on the job. I can do other things once I'm off the job, but she don't understand that.
There's
And it's
a
so
line.
hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm working for a company. You can get me fired to take you to the store when we're supposed to go with the van service instead.
Yeah.
And it's like, she don't get that. And she just be, you got to do this. I'm your mom. I'm this and this and that. And it's so hard to disconnect. And I don't want to be like hard on her, be firm. I'll be like, well, you got to disconnect. This is a job and I'm still your daughter, but I'm working for
Yeah.
a couple, for
Yeah.
someone. And it'd be so hard. And I don't know how to really, without
To
me and her.
differentiate the two, right? Because
Yeah.
you're right, it becomes very blurred. Were you hired through an agency or was that through just self-directed supports?
She's up under United health, so, but I had to go through an agency, Temp Plus.
Oh, I see.
They sent me through, but she wanted me to over, I'm like,
More than what,
Well, it seems like a lot what Dee shared before was like sort of the time and be willing to work through it. And you're like going, well, then who do I talk to? I feel like I'm doing an ad for Lakeland today. Do I recall, Lakeland, that you have an 800 number for caregivers? To just be able to call and talk? So like you could get other people's ideas or thoughts?
No, we don't have like there isn't like a phone number. We have like the PICS program. Is that what you were talking about? Or what?
Is that the app?
Yeah,
Okay, explain that. That's what I meant.
got it.
It's an app.
Yeah, so there's a PICS app that, it's PXY. There's a PICS app that is for like caregivers to talk to basically whoever, it's,
Like other caregivers.
yeah, other caregivers, but then it's also, there's just like different things that you can do, and it helps with like your mental health and things like that. So there's just like, it's just to kind of allow you to talk and more so like vent your frustrations, right? Like, it's hard to be a family caregiver. There's caregiver burnout and everybody's aware of that. And
People are going to look for that. Do they go through the app store?
yep,
They go through like Apple app. What's the name of the app?
I believe it's PICS Health. I don't have it on my phone. I should, but I don't. Yeah, absolutely.
And one other thing, just to make it real clear, I know about it because when Lakeland created this, they made it for they're touched into it, but it's for anybody or everybody. So you don't have to live in the area that Lakeland provides services. You don't have to be a Lakeland member to
Correct.
be able to use that. And I think it's just that great idea to be able to just talk to other people about who's maybe struggling through the same thing.
Yep, so it's PICS Health Inc. It's PYX and then Health Inc. And yeah, it's an app that initially was something that we had partnered with PICS Health for our members, and then it actually evolved into allowing it for any caregiver, not just Lakeland members or caregivers. It's literally open to any caregiver.
Yeah, advertise you.
It's perfect.
Did you have a question?
Yes. When you are stressed and mad and angry at someone, like, what should you do?
Sure. I think we might have a few people who might be willing to share.
Yeah.
Dee, I'm going to bring it
Sure.
up. You can just start. And then-
I think one of the best things to do, especially when you're kind of upset and annoyed with each other, is to just give each other a little bit of space. And I know for my family, because we all live in the same house, sometimes that makes it a little harder. But just simply separating, closing that door for 10 minutes, and allowing yourself to breathe and to calm down, it's amazing how that helps clarify a lot of things. And I only say this from experience because my mother is my caregiver. So she can play that mom trump card every single time. At the end of the day, I'm still your mother. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I don't want to disrespect her, especially when she has been the caregiver my whole life, and now that we're living together again under the same roof. And because now she's also my caregiver again, those lines are really great. But giving yourself that space, even if that means just separating for half an hour, makes a difference. So just saying, okay, I need time to myself. And it's okay to do that. It is okay to need that moment to just breathe, reset your mind so that you can kind of together go back together as a team to kind of face whatever challenges it is. And I think there also comes a point in time where it's fair to just say, you know what, Mom, I understand you're my mother, or I understand you're my sister. And that gentleman yesterday, Max, said it very well, and I'm glad he used these words. He goes, you know what, I know you want to protect me, but don't protect me from living my life, because that is what gives me self-worth, and I deserve that. You deserve that for just being here, for taking up space. You have that right to just simply deserve to live your life the way you want to, the way that you need to, so that your existence is worth something, right? And I'm so glad that Max put it that way, because that line is really gray. And it's very difficult sometimes to just not overprotect, especially when that overprotecting will hurt the person that you're trying to protect from, right? So I think it's okay to separate it for a little bit. It's okay to regroup, and it's okay to come back when the anger is not there, when those really harsh feelings are not there. It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes that's the best way to do it. And yeah, I don't know if anybody else has any suggestions on that. Yes, Erin.
Yeah, so two things.
Absolutely.
One thing I find that really helps me is I pay attention to my body. Am I hot? Am I cold?
Absolutely.
Excuse me. Spam. Okay, so
Yeah.
am I hot? Am I cold? Hungry? Thirsty? If just those little things can just go a long way. One of my meltdown triggers is overheating, so I'm always paying attention to that.
Hot, yeah.
And I have to let my caregivers know that
Yeah.
I was a little panicked about being overheating because I don't want to melt down in the car. We're going on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is that, again, I noticed that 80% of caregivers are women. I'm just, and male caregivers are in the minority. You might have a different relationship. I don't know how any of this works, but guys, you may have a different relationship with your caregivers. So.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know about you, but I in my house, we call it being hangry, where you're just kind of angry because you're suddenly hungry, but you don't really identify it until literally my sister will be like, I'll just make a snack. You're angry, I'll make a snack. Because it's to the point now where she just doesn't, she's not even offended anymore, because it happens so often that I'm just upset because I'm hungry, that if I get that way, okay, let me just go make a snack, you know? And it's nice to be able to kind of build that type of a relationship, or that we've been together long enough in that caregiving, and, you know, and her as a caregiver and me as taking the caregiving, that you learn that. And I think self-directed supports kind of helps boost those types of relationships, you know? So you build relationships with somebody that you want there, and that you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Can I follow up to
Absolutely.
you, a question? When you were talking earlier about like why this works for you, and there was a lot of reference to family.
Yes.
And the family knowing you and the intimacy of that. I just was wondering, and it may have no effect on it all, but is there something to it that it's also other people who are Hmong? I mean, is there something
Absolutely.
culturally that it's sometimes
Absolutely.
important, you know,
Yes.
and why people will choose whatever that is with culture? So.
Yeah. I think that the cultural aspect of it is also very important. In my family, I'm not the only person, I wasn't the only person in long-term care. Living within my home also was my maternal grandmother, who was also in long-term care. She was in family care partnership. But that language barrier was a huge thing, because my grandmother could not speak English. And it was very difficult. We found it that to have a third party come into the home, and my grandmother would get frustrated but wouldn't be able to tell this worker why she was feeling that way. That language barrier is a huge, I feel like it's a huge detraction from what is actually going on. So for her, it was almost just easier to have my father and my mother be the caretakers because they spoke the language. And so if my grandmother was hungry for anything, she could easily say, I would like to eat this, or can we go and make this specific food? And they would understand enough to do it, to make it. And for them, it was almost to a certain extent a level of like helping each other. They did it together. So if my grandmother was hungry for something, she would make it, and then my mother would be right there to help her with it. So not only did they strengthen and build that relationship, but it allowed them to be able to connect because there was a language barrier that we were just not able to overcome with anybody outside of the home. That made a huge impact. Yeah. Absolutely. And let's say you have, you've spoken with your care team and you still need an advocate or you still need extra help. You can always call the Disability Rights Wisconsin. There's an 800 number. I've got it written up here that you can write down if you'd like. Otherwise, you can find this number online as well. But that is a place where they have specialists that really just help people in the disability community to be able to get the help that they need. When you mention that you are in family care, I think it gives them a very specific direction as to where to go and how to go about helping you.
We use the term advocate,
Advocate,
only
yes.
because the word that's used is often awkward and people don't know.
lot.
But you're going to see it in the member handbook or written up. They're going to call it an ombudsman. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's not only that Disability Rights Wisconsin knows stuff, but they actually are contracted by the Department of Health Services. And the team that will work with you, that's their specialty. They're just working with family care issues that there's some, it's just, the grievance, well, you know, we want this or do that. But, yeah, I just wanted to say, you might have seen it. It's not something separate. We just found the ombudsman word weird.
It's an awkward word to say. But do we have any more questions or anything you guys would like to bring up?
I want to say
Yes.
that I feel as though you, with your mother and your family,
Yes.
have a very rich life.
Absolutely. I am very blessed
Yes.
to have a family who are empathetic to my needs and then willing to go the extra mile to meet my needs based on what my desires are. You are absolutely right on that. I am very fortunate. My sister-in-law was married into our family when I'd already been sick for a long period of time. And my mother and I talk about this, and she will say this too. She goes, you know, I realized I married your brother, but at the end of the day, I married you and Mom, because the three of us work so closely together just for my care that I'm very fortunate that even though she came into my family as a stranger, she is now a very, very strong thread that has woven into the fabric, into the quilt of our family. And I'm very fortunate, you're absolutely right. I'm very fortunate to just really have such a loving family that is willing to do that. Yes.
Really quick question. I'm still trying to kind of understand the structural differences between Iris and family care.
Yes.
And you talk about the care team being the member, their nurse, and then their care manager.
Care manager, correct.
Okay, what role for someone coming in who may be very young yet and may not be able to make a lot of those decisions, but that you want them to be as independent as possible. So is there a role or a spot in that triangle for family as someone's getting?
Good.
Go ahead and say it now, just.
I was going to say, you know, the role, those three people, I only specifically put it as a triangle because that's what the state recognizes as a care team. But your support is always going to be part of what the care team within the MCO is always going to look for as well. They're going to look at those natural home supports, the support of the friends or other church groups. Really, it's based on what you, as the member, who you see as your support team. You know, so for myself, I may meet with my nurse and my care team, like my nurse and my care manager, right? But they also know that because my family supports me, my family's opinion makes a difference. And I want my family's opinion to be put into this decision as well. But that's what I allow. So ultimately, it's up to what the person chooses to be as their support team will get included right into that care team. So if the family, if the family support is important and you as the member wants them to be part of it, they can easily be added in right in that group. But I just specifically point those three out because that's what DHS, the Department of Health Services, considers is a care team. But ultimately, it's up to the member.
Yeah, and just two things to add to that. One would simply be that if you run into a care team saying that's not accurate or you can't bring that person in, you could bring someone in from your day program if
Correct.
you wanted to.
Right.
Just don't take no for an answer on that one,
Right.
okay? Just keep
fighting.
saying,
Right.
why?
Because I mean,
Why? And then the last
go
thing
ahead.
I just wanted to say was, just from what Dee had shared and some of you shared, my experience has always been the more people you have talking together, the better things happen. So I actually usually encourage it instead of someone feeling they have to do it themselves or even just them and their mom, you know, to say if there's other people, you know,
yeah.
you can bring them in. It's, you know,
Yeah. And ultimately, this all leads back to just self-determination, just what gives you self-worth, what helps you to just be more independent and happy with your life, you know? If that means having a support team of your family and friends, that's what you need, and you deserve that. You have the right to have that. So I think if a care team just says no to that, I think pushing it is and advocating for yourself is going to be ultimately what works best.
one closing thought
Yes,
from them.
absolutely.
A lot of wise words. What do you want to leave them with before they go?
Do not let other people define your joy, your happiness, take away your right to exist in this space. This space that you take is worth you being there. And do not let other people define your space or box you into something that you are not. And advocating for yourself, speaking up for yourself, and making sure that your needs are met. You are worth every moment that it takes to get you there. You are worth it. So yeah, don't let other people tell you what you can and you can't be. You are worth that space. Yes. Thank you so much, guys, for coming in. And this has been wonderful to just sit down and discuss with you guys. Thank you.